"Dad, can I share my plate with her?" begs the millionaire's daughter, pointing to the hungry girl outside. He hesitates, unaware of the dark past that accompanies that child. The invitation to come in triggers secrets and twists that no one could have predicted. And what seemed like a simple gesture of kindness becomes the beginning of an irreversible change for everyone. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The harsh winter wind whipped through the streets of Chicago, sending pedestrians hurrying along Michigan Avenue with their collars turned up against the biting cold. Outside the glass windows of Bellini, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants, 10-year-old Olivia Morgan pressed her small, chapped hands against the cold surface, her breath creating fleeting clouds of condensation. Her large brown eyes followed the elegant diners inside, their plates piled high with food she could only dream about. Olivia's stomach growled painfully. It had been almost 2 days since she'd had anything substantial to eat. Just some discarded fries from a fast food restaurant and half a stale bagel a kind barista had slipped her. Since her grandmother's passing 3 months ago, Olivia had been surviving on the streets, hiding from social services, afraid of being put into the system. Her grandmother had told her stories about foster care that terrified her. Inside the warm restaurant, 11-year-old Lily Anderson sat across from her father, Jack, who hadn't looked up from his phone in 20 minutes. Lily pushed her lobster ravioli around her plate, boredom etched across her face. Her father, one of Chicago's most successful architects, had promised this lunch would be special, a way to make up for missing her piano recital the previous weekend. But as usual, work calls took precedence. "Dad?" Lily said, tapping the table with her fork. When he didn't respond, she tried again, louder. "Dad!" Jack Anderson looked up, momentarily disoriented as he was pulled from his email. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, what is it?" "You promised. No phone during lunch." Lily's voice carried the weariness of a child used to broken promises. "You're right," Jack said, setting his phone face down on the table. "I'm sorry. It's just this new project downtown." "There's a girl outside," Lily interrupted, pointing toward the window. "She's been watching us eat." Jack turned to look where his daughter was pointing. Through the frosted glass, he could make out the small figure of a child, her face partially obscured by a too large knit hat, wisps of dark hair peeking out beneath it. Something about the intensity of the child's gaze made him pause. "She looks hungry," Lily said simply. "Can we invite her in?" Jack blinked, surprised by his daughter's request. "Lily, we can't just invite strangers off the street." "Why not?" Lily challenged, a stubborn set to her jaw that reminded Jack painfully of her mother. Claire had been gone for 3 years now, taken by cancer when Lily was just 8, but her determination lived on in their daughter. "You always tell me we should help people." "It's complicated," Jack began, but Lily had already slid from her chair and was approaching their server, a young woman named Megan, who had been particularly attentive throughout their meal. Jack watched, torn between pride and embarrassment, as Lily spoke animatedly to Megan, pointing toward the window. The server glanced outside, then at Jack, a question in her eyes. Feeling cornered, Jack nodded reluctantly. Moments later, Megan opened the heavy glass door, leaning out to speak to the girl on the sidewalk. After some apparent hesitation, the small figure followed the server inside, keeping her eyes downcast as she was led to the Andersons' table. Up close, Olivia looked even more vulnerable. Her coat was threadbare, her jeans worn through at the knees. Jack noticed with a pang that she wore sneakers despite the snow outside, the canvas material darkened with moisture. "Hi," Lily said brightly, seemingly oblivious to the girl's disheveled appearance. "I'm Lily. What's your name?" "Olivia," came the whispered reply, so soft Jack almost missed it. "Would you like to eat with us?" Lily continued. "I have way too much food and my dad always says waste is wrong." Olivia's eyes darted to Jack, wary and uncertain. Jack found himself nodding, moved by the naked hunger in the child's gaze. "Please, join us," he said, gesturing to the empty chair beside Lily. Megan returned with another place setting and a glass of water. "What would you like to eat, sweetheart?" she asked Olivia, her voice gentle. Olivia looked overwhelmed by the question, her eyes widening as she scanned the elaborate menu Megan offered her. "The spaghetti and meatballs is really good," Lily suggested. "That's what I usually get." "That," Olivia said quickly, handing the menu back without looking at it. "Please." Jack watched as the girl perched on the edge of the chair, her posture tense as if ready to flee at any moment. "Are you from around here?" he asked, trying to put her at ease. Olivia nodded vaguely. "Sort of. I used to live with my grandma in Pilsen, but—" She trailed off, her hands fidgeting with the napkin. "But," Jack prompted gently. "She's gone now," Olivia said flatly, "since October." "I'm sorry," Jack said automatically, then frowned. "October? That was 3 months ago. Who are you staying with now?" Olivia's gaze dropped to the table. "Nobody." The simplicity of her answer hit Jack like a physical blow. Before he could respond, Megan arrived with Olivia's spaghetti, setting it down with a warm smile. The moment the plate touched the table, Olivia began eating with barely concealed desperation, twirling the pasta and taking large bites as if afraid the food might disappear. Lily watched with fascination, while Jack felt a complex mixture of emotions wash over him: shock, pity, and something deeper he couldn't immediately identify. "Slow down," he said softly. "There's no rush. You can have as much as you want." Olivia paused mid-bite, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She lowered her fork slightly, making a visible effort to eat more slowly. "Sorry," she murmured. "It's really good." "Where do you sleep?" Lily asked with the direct curiosity of a child. Jack winced at the bluntness of the question, but Olivia didn't seem offended. "Different places," she answered vaguely. "The library's warm during the day. There's a sheltered spot behind the dumpster at Mario's Pizza. They throw out good stuff sometimes." Jack felt his throat tighten. The matter-of-fact way this child described her homelessness was unbearable. Chicago winters were brutally cold. The thought of anyone, let alone a child Lily's age, sleeping outside was unthinkable. "You don't have any family?" he asked carefully. "No one looking for you?" Olivia shook her head. "It was just Grandma. She always said we only needed each other." A shadow passed over her face. "The landlord kicked me out after she was gone. Said a kid couldn't pay rent." "Didn't anyone call social services?" Jack asked, struggling to understand how this child had fallen through the cracks. "Grandma said never to talk to them," Olivia replied, tension visible in her small shoulders. "She said they'd send me away, that I'd get lost in the system. She made me promise." Jack exchanged a troubled glance with Lily, who was watching Olivia with undisguised concern. His daughter suddenly looked years older, her usual carefree expression replaced by something more thoughtful. "You could come home with us," Lily said impulsively. "Right, Dad? Just for tonight? It's too cold to be outside." Jack hesitated, his mind racing through the implications. Taking in a homeless child, even temporarily, raised countless legal and ethical questions. And yet, looking at Olivia's thin face and worn clothes, he couldn't bring himself to say no. "Yes," he heard himself saying, "just until we figure something out." Relief flooded Olivia's face, quickly replaced by suspicion. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." The question caught Jack off guard with its adult wariness. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply, "and because Lily asked." As they finished their meal, Jack signed the check and helped Olivia into his coat, which swallowed her small frame completely. Outside, his black Range Rover waited at the curb, the valet handing over the keys with a curious glance at their unexpected companion. Olivia climbed into the back seat beside Lily, her movements cautious, as if afraid to fully commit to this strange turn of events. As Jack pulled away from the restaurant, he caught her wide-eyed expression in the rearview mirror as she took in the heated leather seats and the classical music playing softly through the premium speakers. "It's okay," Lily said, reaching out to pat Olivia's hand. "Dad's house is really big. You can stay in the guest room. It has its own bathroom and everything." "How long can I stay?" Olivia asked, directing the question at Jack. Jack met her eyes in the mirror, suddenly struck by how much this moment felt like a crossroads. "Let's just take it one day at a time," he said carefully. As they drove through the snowy streets toward his Lincoln Park home, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter was about to change all their lives in ways he couldn't begin to imagine. Jack's Lincoln Park townhouse rose impressively against the winter sky, its brick facade and large windows illuminated by tasteful landscape lighting. Olivia stared up at it from the car, her expression a mixture of awe and apprehension. "You live here?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "It's not as big as it looks," Lily said matter-of-factly, though they all knew that wasn't true. The Anderson home sprawled over 4 floors with 5 bedrooms, a home office and a rooftop garden, that offered stunning views of the Chicago skyline. As Jack led them inside, Olivia's steps slowed as if she were afraid to fully cross the threshold into this new world. The foyer opened into a spacious living room with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture in shades of grey and blue. Despite its elegant design, there was something distinctly unlived-in about the space. Few personal touches, no clutter, like a showroom rather than a home. "Are you hungry?" Jack asked, then immediately felt foolish. They had just eaten at the restaurant, but old habits of hospitality died hard. Olivia shook her head, her eyes darting around the room, taking in the abstract paintings and designer lamps. "No, thank you." "Let me show you where you can sleep," Lily said, grabbing Olivia's hand and pulling her toward the staircase. "And we can find you some clean clothes. I have tons I've outgrown." Jack watched them go, Lily chattering excitedly while Olivia followed in overwhelmed silence. Left alone, he ran a hand through his hair, trying to process the impulsive decision he'd just made. Taking in a homeless child was either the most compassionate thing he'd ever done or the most foolhardy. Possibly both. He pulled out his phone, hesitated, then called his sister, Rebecca. "You did what?" Rebecca's voice rose in disbelief after he explained the situation. "I couldn't just leave her on the street, Becca," Jack said defensively. "It's 15 degrees outside." "Of course not, but Jack, there are proper channels for this kind of situation. Child Protective Services." "She's terrified of the system," Jack interrupted. "And can you blame her? You know the statistics as well as I do." Rebecca sighed. As a family court attorney, she knew all too well the challenges faced by children in foster care. "What's your plan then? You can't just keep her indefinitely without legal guardianship." "I don't know yet," Jack admitted, "but I'll figure it out. Maybe you could help me navigate the legal side." "I'll look into it," Rebecca promised after a pause. "But be careful, Jack. Don't get Lily's hopes up, or yours. This is complicated." After hanging up, Jack headed upstairs to check on the girls. He found them in Lily's bathroom, where Olivia stood awkwardly as Lily rummaged through her dresser. "These should fit," Lily was saying, holding up a pair of pajamas with cartoon cats on them. "And you can use my extra toothbrush. It's still in the package." Olivia accepted the clothes with careful hands as if they might break. "Thank you," she said softly. Then, turning to Jack, she added, "I can leave in the morning. I don't want to be trouble." "You're not trouble," Jack said firmly. "You'll stay until we figure out a proper solution. No child should be homeless, especially in winter." Olivia's shoulders relaxed slightly, but the wariness never fully left her eyes. "I can work," she offered. "I'm good at cleaning. My grandma taught me." Something about her words triggered a memory in Jack's mind. "What was your grandmother's name?" he asked suddenly. "Eleanor Rivera," Olivia replied, "but everyone called her Ellie." Jack felt the blood drain from his face. Ellie Rivera. The name was instantly familiar. She had been part of the cleaning staff at his architectural firm for years, a petite woman with a ready smile who always arrived early and stayed late. Jack had exchanged pleasantries with her countless times, but had never known anything about her personal life. "Your grandmother, she worked at Anderson & Payne Architects," he said slowly. Olivia's eyes widened. "You knew my grandma?" "I did," Jack confirmed, the coincidence leaving him slightly breathless. "She cleaned our offices for years. She was an excellent worker. Everyone liked her." "She had 2 jobs," Olivia said proudly. "The office in the morning and a hotel at night. She said she was saving for my college." Her face fell. "But then she got sick." Jack felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He had noticed Ellie's absence from the office, but had assumed she'd found another job. No one had told him she was ill or that she had passed away. He'd been too wrapped up in his own work, his own life, to inquire about a cleaning woman who had been a constant presence for nearly a decade. "I'm so sorry," he said, the words feeling wholly inadequate. "I didn't know." Later that night, after both girls were settled, Lily in her room and Olivia in the guest suite down the hall, Jack sat in his home office, staring at his computer screen without really seeing it. The coincidence of finding Ellie Rivera's granddaughter was too significant to ignore. It felt like the universe was offering him a chance to make amends for his obliviousness, his failure to notice or inquire when Ellie had disappeared from his daily life. His phone buzzed with an email notification from Robert Payne, his business partner, about tomorrow's client meeting. Jack stared at it for a long moment before setting the phone aside without responding. For once, work could wait. Morning came with the soft, diffuse light of a snowy day. Jack woke earlier than usual, his mind still processing the previous day's events. He made his way downstairs to find Olivia already awake, sitting quietly at the kitchen counter, with her hands folded in her lap. "Good morning," he said, trying to sound casual. "Did you sleep okay?" Olivia nodded. "Yes, sir. Thank you for the bed. It was very comfortable." "Just call me Jack," he said, moving to the coffee maker. "Are you hungry? I can make pancakes." "You don't have to," Olivia started, but Jack was already pulling ingredients from the pantry. "I want to," he assured her. "Besides, it's Sunday. Pancakes are tradition." It wasn't exactly true. He and Lily rarely ate breakfast together these days with his early meetings and her weekend activities, but it felt right to establish some normalcy in this unusual situation. As he mixed batter and heated the griddle, Jack watched Olivia from the corner of his eye. She sat perfectly still, her posture straight as if afraid that moving might somehow break the spell of this temporary sanctuary. She was clean now, her dark hair freshly washed and wearing a set of Lily's outgrown clothes, jeans and a purple sweater that hung slightly loose on her smaller frame. "You look better," he commented, pouring batter onto the sizzling surface. "More comfortable." "Lily gave me some clothes," Olivia said, looking down at herself. "She said I could keep them." "Of course you can," Jack confirmed, flipping a pancake with practiced ease. "Whatever you need while you're here." The sound of footsteps on the stairs announced Lily's arrival. She entered the kitchen with her characteristic energy, her hair disheveled from sleep. "You're making pancakes?" she asked, sounding pleasantly surprised. "With chocolate chips?" "Would I make them any other way?" Jack replied with a smile, holding up a bag of semi-sweet morsels. Lily climbed onto the stool beside Olivia, bumping shoulders with her in a friendly gesture. "Did you sleep okay? That bed is super comfy, right?" "It was amazing," Olivia admitted. "I haven't slept in a real bed since—" She trailed off, the unfinished sentence hanging in the air. Jack placed a stack of pancakes in front of each girl, along with butter, syrup, and a bowl of fresh berries. For a few minutes, the kitchen was quiet, except for the sounds of eating and the occasional murmur of appreciation. "What do you want to do today?" Lily asked Olivia between bites. "We could watch movies or play games, or I could show you my art stuff. I have tons of markers and paints." Olivia hesitated, clearly unaccustomed to having options for entertainment. "I like drawing," she said finally. "My grandma used to get me paper from the office recycling bin." The casual mention of such resourcefulness made Jack's chest tighten. He thought of his own daughter's overflowing art supplies, many barely used before she moved on to the next thing that caught her interest. "We have plenty of paper," Jack assured her, "and Lily has enough art supplies to stock a small store." After breakfast, the girls disappeared into Lily's playroom, leaving Jack to clean up and contemplate his next steps. He needed to talk to Rebecca again about the legal implications of Olivia's situation. He needed to figure out if there were any other relatives who might be looking for her. And he needed to understand why no one at his firm had informed him about Ellie Rivera's illness or passing. But as he loaded the dishwasher, he found himself distracted by the sound of laughter floating down from upstairs. Lily's familiar giggle joined by a softer, more hesitant laugh that must be Olivia's. It was the first time he'd heard the homeless girl sound truly childlike, unburdened by the weight of survival. Later, when he went to check on them, he found the playroom floor covered in paper, colorful drawings scattered everywhere. Lily was showing Olivia how to use her set of professional markers, demonstrating different techniques for blending colors. "Look, Dad!" Lily called when she noticed him in the doorway. "Olivia's an amazing artist, way better than me." Olivia blushed at the praise but held up her drawing for Jack to see, a detailed sketch of the Chicago skyline at sunset, the buildings silhouetted against a gradient sky of oranges and purples. It was remarkably good, especially for a child her age. "That's beautiful," Jack said honestly. "You have real talent, Olivia." "My grandma said the same thing," Olivia replied, a flicker of pride crossing her face. "She saved all my drawings, even the bad ones." Her expression clouded. "They're probably gone now, though. The landlord threw our stuff out." The casual acceptance of such loss made Jack's decision crystallize in his mind. This child had lost enough. Her grandmother, her home, her belongings, her security. He couldn't change the past, but perhaps he could help shape her future. "Olivia," he said carefully, "how would you feel about staying with us for a while? Not just for a night or two, but longer?" Olivia's eyes widened, hope and disbelief warring in her expression. "Really?" she whispered. "Really?" Jack confirmed, even as a part of his mind warned him about the complications ahead. "We have plenty of room, and Lily could use the company." "Yes," Lily exclaimed, throwing her arms around Olivia in an impulsive hug. "Please stay. It'll be like having a sister." Olivia remained frozen for a moment, overwhelmed by the physical contact and the offer. Then slowly, her arms came up to return Lily's hug, her small hands clutching the back of Lily's shirt as if holding onto a lifeline. Looking at them, Jack felt something shift in his chest, a space opening up that had been closed since Claire's passing. He hadn't realized how empty the house had felt, with just the two of them, how much they had both been going through the motions of living rather than truly embracing it. Somehow, this lost girl had found them, just when they needed finding themselves. The following week brought a whirlwind of changes to the Anderson household. After consulting with Rebecca, Jack initiated temporary guardianship proceedings for Olivia, a first step toward possibly adopting her if no relatives came forward. Rebecca had connections in family court and helped expedite the initial paperwork, though she continued to warn her brother about the complexities ahead. "The system moves slowly, Jack," she cautioned during a phone call, "and there will be home studies, interviews, background checks. Are you sure you're ready for this?" Jack glanced across his home office to where Olivia and Lily sat at the window seat, heads bent together over a book. In just a few days, the girls had become nearly inseparable. "I'm sure," he said firmly, "whatever it takes." While Jack navigated the legal aspects, he also enrolled Olivia in Lily's private school, arranging for placement testing and pulling strings to get her admitted mid-year. The school administrators had been understanding once he explained the situation, though they insisted on academic assessments to determine appropriate placement. "She's behind in math and science," the academic counselor told Jack after Olivia's testing. "But her reading comprehension and vocabulary are exceptional. With some tutoring, she should catch up quickly." Jack wasn't surprised. Despite her circumstances, Olivia was clearly bright and curious. Each night before bed, he found her reading books from his home library, often ones far above her grade level. When he asked about it, she explained that the public library had been her refuge on cold days, a place where she could stay warm and lose herself in stories. "My grandma taught me to read when I was 4, she told him proudly. "She said books could take you anywhere, even when you couldn't afford to travel." By the second week, they had settled into a routine. Jack drove both girls to school in the morning before heading to his office. After school, his housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, picked them up and supervised homework until Jack returned home. The arrangement worked well, though Jack found himself leaving the office earlier than he used to, eager to return to the increasingly lively household. Not everyone was pleased with these changes. At Anderson and Payne Architects, Robert Payne had noticed his partner's shifting priorities with growing irritation. "So you missed the lakefront development meeting," Robert said, leaning against the doorframe of Jack's office. "That's the third client meeting you've skipped this month." Jack continued reviewing blueprints, not looking up. "I sent you my notes beforehand, and Taylor is more than capable of handling the presentation." "That's not the point." Robert's voice held an edge. "We're up for the Thompson Tower contract, the biggest project this firm has seen in 5 years. We need all hands on deck, Jack. Not just mine." Jack finally met his partner's gaze. Robert Payne was an excellent architect, but had always been more ambitious than Jack, more focused on expanding the firm and securing high-profile clients. Since Claire's death, Jack had thrown himself into work as a distraction, which had suited Robert perfectly. Now that Jack was pulling back, the dynamic was shifting. "I've handled my share of the workload," Jack said evenly, "and I'll continue to do so. But I'm not missing dinner with my daughters again." "Daughters?" Robert raised an eyebrow. "So, you're really going through with this adoption?" "Taking in the cleaning lady's granddaughter." The dismissive tone made Jack's jaw tighten. "Her name is Olivia, and yes, I am." Robert shook his head. "Look, it's admirable what you're doing, but you need to consider the optics. A single man adopting a young girl he has no relation to? People talk, Jack." "Let them," Jack replied coldly. "I don't care what people think." But as the days passed, Jack discovered that Robert's warning wasn't entirely unfounded. The first hint of trouble came from Mrs. Patterson, the elderly widow who lived next door. Jack had always maintained a cordial but distant relationship with her, exchanging pleasantries when they collected their mail or shoveled snow from their adjacent walkways. One afternoon, as Jack was helping the girls out of the car after school, Mrs. Patterson appeared at her fence. "Mr. Anderson," she called, her voice carrying clearly in the quiet street. "Might I have a word?" Jack approached the fence while the girls waited by the car. "What can I do for you, Mrs. Patterson?" "I couldn't help but notice you have a new guest," she said, her gaze sliding meaningfully toward Olivia. "Such a sudden addition to your household." "Olivia is staying with us, yes," Jack confirmed, keeping his tone neutral despite the bristling he felt at her prying. Mrs. Patterson leaned closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper that was still perfectly audible. "I'm sure you mean well, but people are talking. A man in your position, a young girl with no proper background, it raises questions." Jack felt a flush of anger rising up his neck. The only question it should raise is why a child was allowed to become homeless in one of the wealthiest cities in America. "Now, if you'll excuse me." He turned away before she could respond, ushering the girls quickly into the house. But the encounter left him unsettled, aware that his private decision was becoming fodder for neighborhood gossip. Inside, Lily immediately sensed his mood. "Is something wrong, Dad?" Jack forced a smile. "Not at all. Just Mrs. Patterson being nosy. Nothing to worry about." Olivia, however, had clearly understood more than he'd hoped. Later that evening, after Lily had gone upstairs to shower, Olivia approached Jack in the kitchen where he was preparing dinner. "I can leave if I'm causing problems," she said quietly, her small face serious. "I don't want people to think bad things about you." Jack set down the knife he'd been using to chop vegetables and knelt to eye level with Olivia. "You're not causing any problems, and I don't care what Mrs. Patterson or anyone else thinks. But what if they call someone like social services?" The fear in her voice was palpable. "Let them," Jack said firmly. "We're doing everything legally. Rebecca, my sister, she's making sure of that. No one is going to take you away." Olivia studied his face, searching for reassurance. "Promise?" "I promise," Jack said, hoping it was a promise he could keep. The following day brought a new challenge. Jack received a call from Lily's teacher, Ms. Winters, asking him to come in for a meeting after school. When he arrived, he found both girls waiting outside the classroom. Lily with tear-stained cheeks and Olivia with a defiant set to her jaw. "What happened?" he asked, alarmed by Lily's obvious distress. "Just some stupid kids," Lily mumbled, wiping at her eyes. "It's nothing." "It's not nothing," Olivia countered, her voice uncharacteristically hard. "They were being mean about me staying with you guys." Ms. Winters emerged from the classroom then, inviting Jack inside while the girls waited in the hall. Once the door closed, she explained the situation. "There was an incident during recess," she began. "Some children were teasing Lily about Olivia, saying unkind things about why you might have taken her in." Jack's stomach clenched. "What kind of things?" Ms. Winters looked uncomfortable. "Children can be cruel when they don't understand situations. They were implying that it was inappropriate for Olivia to be living with you, that you might have ulterior motives." "They were repeating what they've heard from their parents," Jack realized aloud, anger coursing through him. "Most likely," Ms. Winters agreed. "I've addressed it with the class, but I thought you should know, especially because Olivia got quite confrontational in Lily's defense." "Confrontational how?" "She didn't get physical," Ms. Winters clarified quickly. "But she did tell the ringleader, Tyler Bennett, that he was an ignorant, privileged brat who wouldn't last 2 days on the streets." Her exact words. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Jack felt a flicker of pride at Olivia's fierce defense of her new family. "I'll talk to both girls," he promised, "and thank you for handling it." That evening, after discussing the incident with Lily and Olivia, praising Olivia's loyalty while gently suggesting less confrontational responses for the future, Jack called Rebecca again. "The rumors are starting," he told her, pacing his office while the girls watched a movie downstairs. "At school, in the neighborhood. Robert even made some comments at work." Rebecca sighed. "I was afraid of this. People always look for the worst explanation when they don't understand something." "I don't care what people think about me," Jack said, "but I'm worried about how it affects the girls." Lily was in tears today. The best defense is transparency, Rebecca advised. The more official and above board this arrangement is, the less ammunition the gossips will have. I've scheduled your first meeting with the social worker for next week. She'll do a home study and interview both you and Olivia. That soon? Jack hadn't expected the wheels of bureaucracy to turn so quickly. I pulled some strings, Rebecca admitted, and it helps that Olivia was essentially homeless. That creates a sense of urgency in the system. After hanging up, Jack rejoined the girls in the living room, settling onto the couch between them. On screen, an animated character was embarking on some improbable adventure, but Jack found himself watching the girls instead. Lily, still a little subdued from the day's events, rested her head against his shoulder. Olivia sat slightly apart, maintaining the small physical distance she often kept, as if afraid to fully claim her place in the family. "Hey," Jack said softly. "Everything okay?" Olivia nodded without looking at him. "I'm sorry about what happened at school." "You don't need to apologize," Jack assured her. "You didn't do anything wrong." "But I made it worse for Lily," Olivia insisted. "Now everyone's going to talk about us even more." "Let them talk," Lily said suddenly, sitting up straight. "I don't care. You're my sister now, and that's all that matters." The simple declaration brought unexpected tears to Jack's eyes. In just 2 weeks, his daughter had shown more compassion and moral clarity than most adults he knew, including, he had to admit, himself. If he hadn't encountered Olivia that day at the restaurant, would he have stopped to help a homeless child? Or would he have averted his eyes and continued with his privileged life, untroubled by the suffering around him? "Lily's right," he said, clearing the emotion from his throat. "We're a family now, and families stick together no matter what anyone says." Olivia's expression softened, a tentative smile forming. "Family," she repeated, as if testing the word. Then, in a gesture that felt momentous for its rarity, she scooted closer until she was pressed against Jack's other side, completing their little circle. They stayed that way through the rest of the movie, a newfound unit against the world's judgment. Jack knew there would be more challenges ahead. The home study, school adjustments, ongoing gossip, but in that moment, with both girls warm and safe beside him, he felt equal to whatever came next. What he didn't know was that the biggest challenge was yet to emerge, not from nosy neighbors or schoolyard bullies, but from within his own company, where Robert Payne was growing increasingly resentful of Jack's divided attention and formulating a plan to regain control of the firm they had built together. The social worker, Ms. Daniels, arrived precisely at 10 on Saturday morning. She was younger than Jack had expected, perhaps in her early 30s, with a no-nonsense demeanor that was somehow still warm. She shook Jack's hand firmly at the door, then immediately knelt to introduce herself to Olivia and Lily. "I've heard a lot about both of you," she said with a genuine smile. "I'm looking forward to getting to know you better." Jack had prepared the girls for this visit, explaining that Ms. Daniels needed to make sure their home was a good place for Olivia to live. Lily had taken this information in stride, but Olivia had grown increasingly anxious as the appointment approached. Now she stood slightly behind Lily, her expression guarded. "Why don't you show me around?" Ms. Daniels suggested, rising to her feet. "I'd love to see where you spend your time." The tour began in the kitchen, moved through the living spaces, and ended with the girls' bedrooms upstairs. Jack had given Olivia the guest room closest to Lily's, and over the past weeks, the formerly sterile space had transformed. The walls now displayed Olivia's artwork, cityscapes, portraits of Lily and Jack, and abstract patterns in vibrant colors. A bookshelf held volumes borrowed from Jack's library and new ones purchased specifically for her. On the bedside table sat a framed photograph of Eleanor Rivera, recovered from Jack's company archives. Ms. Daniels noticed this immediately. "Is that your grandmother?" she asked Olivia. Olivia nodded, approaching the frame and picking it up with reverent hands. "Mr. Anderson, Jack, found it in his office. It was from a company picnic." "She has your smile," Ms. Daniels observed. "Do you want to tell me about her?" For the next hour, Ms. Daniels conducted gentle interviews with each of them. First the girls together, then Olivia alone, then Jack. She asked about routines, school, friends, and feelings. When it was Jack's turn, her questions became more pointed. "What motivated you to take this step, Mr. Anderson? Taking in a child is a significant commitment, especially for a single father with a demanding career." Jack considered his answer carefully. "Initially, It was simple human decency. I couldn't leave her on the street. But now, it feels right. Olivia fits into our family in a way I never expected. And the connection to your former employee, Olivia's grandmother, did that factor into your decision? At first, no. I didn't realize who Olivia was until after she was already here, Jack explained. But once I knew, it felt like, I don't know, like the universe was giving me a chance to make amends. Amends for what? Jack shifted uncomfortably. For not noticing. Ellie, Mrs. Rivera, worked in our building for years. She cleaned my office every night. We exchanged pleasantries, but I never really knew her. When she stopped coming, I didn't even inquire why. I was too wrapped up in my own world to wonder what happened to someone who had been part of my daily life for a decade. Ms. Daniels's expression softened. That's a common regret, Mr. Anderson. We often don't appreciate the people in the background of our lives until they're gone. Maybe, Jack conceded, but it doesn't make it right. Olivia was left alone because no one was paying attention. Not me, not the system, not the community. I can't change that. But I can make sure she never feels invisible again. After Ms. Daniels left, promising to submit her report promptly, Jack found Olivia in the backyard, bundled against the cold, sketching the bare winter trees. How do you think it went? He asked, sitting beside her on the garden bench. Olivia shrugged, not looking up from her drawing. She was nice, but they're always nice at first. The comment revealed more about her past experiences than any direct account could have. Jack wondered how many nice adults had made promises to Olivia, only to disappoint her. Ms. Daniels is different, he assured her, and so am I. We're going to make this work, Olivia, I promise. Olivia finally looked at him, her dark eyes serious. I want to believe you. Then, believe me, Jack said simply. I've never broken a promise to Lily, and I won't break one to you. A tentative smile crossed Olivia's face, and she returned to her drawing. Jack remained beside her, watching as the stark branches took shape under her careful hand. She had a gift for capturing not just the appearance of things, but their essence, the strength and resilience of trees that endured Chicago winters year after year, bending but never breaking. Monday morning brought new challenges. Jack arrived at the office to find an emergency partners meeting scheduled by Robert. When he entered the conference room, the tension was palpable. Robert sat at the head of the table, flanked by the firm's senior associates and financial officer. Glad you could join us, Jack, Robert said, his tone making it clear that Jack's punctuality had been in question. We were just discussing the Thompson Tower proposal. I submitted my designs last week, Jack replied, taking a seat. The client seemed pleased with the direction. They were, Robert acknowledged, but they've expressed some concerns about our ability to deliver on schedule given your recent distractions. Jack stiffened. My work has been submitted on time and to specification. What distractions are you referring to? Robert spread his hands in a gesture of false concern. Jack, everyone understands your personal situation. Taking in Ellie's granddaughter is commendable, but clients are noticing your reduced availability. You've missed 3 client dinners in the past month. I rescheduled those meetings for times that worked with my family obligations, Jack pointed out. The clients understood. Did they? Robert slid a folder across the table. Thompson specifically asked if you would be the lead architect. I had to assure them you would be fully committed. Jack opened the folder to find a revised project timeline with his hours significantly increased from what they had initially agreed upon. The schedule would require him to work late most evenings and weekends for the next 6 months. This isn't what we discussed, Jack said, looking up sharply. I can't commit to these hours. Then perhaps you should consider taking a step back, Robert suggested smoothly. A temporary leave of absence while you sort out your personal affairs. Taylor could step up as lead on Thompson. The suggestion was so transparently self-serving that Jack almost laughed. Taylor was Robert's protege, a talented but inexperienced architect who would follow Robert's direction without question. That won't be necessary, Jack said coolly, closing the folder. I'll handle Thompson as agreed in our original timeline. If the client has concerns, I'll address them directly. Jack, Robert leaned forward, his voice dropping to a confidential tone that nonetheless carried to everyone at the table. I'm trying to help you here. The firm's reputation is at stake, and frankly so is yours. There's talk, Jack, about why you've suddenly taken in this child. The implication hung in the air, ugly and unspoken. Jack felt a surge of rage so intense, his vision actually blurred for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was dangerously quiet. "Choose your next words very carefully, Robert." The warning was clear enough that Robert backpedaled immediately. "All I'm saying is that appearances matter in our position. We need to be above reproach." "Then I suggest you focus on your own appearances and leave my family out of it," Jack said, standing abruptly. "I'll revise the timeline to ensure the project stays on track without compromising my responsibilities to my daughters. And Robert, if you ever imply anything inappropriate about my relationship with Olivia again, our partnership will be over immediately." He left the room without waiting for a response, anger propelling him back to his office, where he shut the door and took several deep breaths. This was the first time he'd directly confronted Robert's manipulations, and while it felt cathartic, he knew the battle was far from over. Robert wouldn't back down easily, especially with the lucrative Thompson contract at stake. Jack's phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper. "Mr. Anderson, I'm at the school," she said, her voice tense. "There's been an incident with Olivia. The principal wants you to come right away." Jack's heart sank. "Is she hurt?" "No, not hurt, but in trouble. They're saying she hit another student." Jack arrived at Westlake Academy 20 minutes later to find Olivia sitting outside the principal's office, her face tear-streaked but defiant. Beside her sat a boy Jack recognized as Tyler Bennett, the same child who had been bullying Lily. He sported a reddening mark on his cheek. "What happened?" Jack asked, kneeling in front of Olivia. Before she could answer, the principal's door opened. "Mr. Anderson, please come in. Mrs. Bennett is already here." Inside, an immaculately dressed woman with highlighted blonde hair sat rigidly in one of the visitor chairs. She gave Jack a cold once-over before turning her attention back to Principal Harris. "As I was saying, this type of violent behavior cannot be tolerated," Mrs. Bennett continued, as if Jack's arrival was merely an interruption. "Tyler has never had problems before this new student arrived." Principal Harris, a fair-minded woman in her 50s, who had always impressed Jack with her balanced approach, held up a hand. "Let's hear from both children before drawing conclusions. Mr. Anderson, thank you for coming so quickly." "Of course," Jack said, taking the remaining seat. "What exactly happened?" "According to witnesses, Olivia struck Tyler during lunch period," Principal Harris explained. "She claims he provoked her, but physical violence is against our code of conduct regardless of provocation." "He didn't just provoke me," Olivia spoke up from the doorway where she and Tyler now stood. "He said—" She broke off, glancing at Jack with uncertainty. "Go ahead, Olivia," Principal Harris encouraged. "What did Tyler say?" Olivia swallowed hard. "He said that Mr. Anderson, Jack, only took me in because he's a pervert. He said disgusting things about what happens at our house, and when Lily tried to make him stop, he pushed her." Jack felt as if he'd been doused in ice water. He looked at Tyler, who was studying the floor with sudden interest. "That's ridiculous," Mrs. Bennett scoffed. "Tyler would never say such things. He's simply not raised that way." "Actually, Mrs. Bennett," Principal Harris interjected, "several witnesses corroborated Olivia's account, including Ms. Winters, who overheard the exchange." Mrs. Bennett's perfect composure faltered. "Well, even if Tyler did say something inappropriate, which I doubt, it doesn't justify physical assault." "No, it doesn't," Principal Harris agreed, "which is why both children will face consequences. Tyler will serve 2 weeks of detention for bullying and using inappropriate language. Olivia will serve 1 week for resorting to physical means to resolve the conflict." "That's outrageous," Mrs. Bennett exclaimed. "You're giving my son a harsher punishment than the girl who hit him." "Your son has been warned about bullying before," Principal Harris said firmly. "This is not his first offense. Now, I'd like to speak with each family separately. Mrs. Bennett, if you and Tyler could wait outside for a moment." After they left, Principal Harris's expression softened. "Mr. Anderson, I want you to know that the school is aware of the rumors circulating about your family situation. We don't condone them, and we're taking steps to address the broader issue of gossip and bullying." "Thank you," Jack said, still processing the ugliness of what Tyler had said. "I appreciate that, and while I don't condone violence either, I understand why Olivia reacted as she did." "As do I," Principal Harris admitted. "She was defending not only herself, but Lily as well. It speaks to the bond they've formed." When they exited the office, the Bennetts were gone. Jack found Lily waiting with Mrs. Chen in the main hallway, her expression anxious. "Is Olivia in big trouble?" she asked immediately. "1 week of detention," Jack told her, "but she'll be okay." "It was my fault," Lily said miserably. "I should have stood up to Tyler myself instead of letting Olivia do it." "It wasn't your fault," Olivia insisted, joining them. "Tyler's just a jerk. And I'd do it again if he said those things about our family." "Our family." The simple phrase warmed Jack's heart despite the circumstances. He placed a hand on each girl's shoulder as they walked toward the exit. "Next time," he advised, "find a teacher instead of using your fist. But Olivia, thank you for standing up for Lily. That's what sisters do for each other." Both girls smiled up at him, their expressions so similar in that moment, pride, relief, belonging, that they could have been blood relatives. As they walked to the car, Jack noticed Mrs. Bennet watching from her Range Rover across the parking lot, her expression sour. He nodded politely in her direction, refusing to be baited into further conflict. On the drive home, Lily chatted about a science project while Olivia remained unusually quiet. When they arrived, Lily rushed inside to change clothes, but Olivia lingered in the car. "Are you mad at me?" she asked finally, her voice small. Jack turned to face her fully. "No, Olivia, I'm not mad." "I'm not. I wish you hadn't hit Tyler, but I understand why you did." "The things he said," Olivia's voice wavered, "they were so awful. About you and me. Like we were." She couldn't finish the sentence. "I know," Jack said gently, "and they're completely untrue, but Olivia, people like Tyler and his mother, they're looking for reactions. When you hit him, you gave him exactly what he wanted." Olivia considered this, her brow furrowed. "So what should I do next time?" "Stand tall, walk away. Know that their words can't change who we really are or what our family means." Jack paused, then added softly, "And remember that I'm trying to adopt you because I care about you, not because of anything inappropriate or wrong." "I know that," Olivia said immediately, her certainty touching. "Tyler's just repeating what his mom says. I heard her talking to another mom at pickup last week. She said it wasn't natural for a single man to want to adopt a girl. The casual cruelty of adults never ceased to amaze Jack. Some people see the worst in everything," he told her, "but we know the truth, and soon everyone else will too." As they walked into the house together, Jack's phone buzzed with an email. It was from Rebecca. The initial home study report was complete, and the news was good. They were moving forward with the formal adoption application. It was a small victory in what promised to be a long process, but at that moment, with Olivia walking beside him into their home, it felt monumental. What Jack didn't know was that across town, Robert Payne was having lunch with a potential investor who had expressed interest in buying into Anderson and Payne Architects. As they discussed terms, Robert casually mentioned his concerns about Jack's judgment lately, his divided focus, the risks to the firm's reputation, seeds planted carefully that would soon grow into something neither Jack nor Olivia could have anticipated. February gave way to March, and with the changing season came a sense of cautious optimism in the Anderson household. The formal adoption application had been filed, the girls had settled into a comfortable routine at school, and even Mrs. Patterson's gossip seemed to have lost its momentum as neighbors observed the ordinary, wholesome family life unfolding in Jack's home. On an unusually mild Saturday, Jack took the girls to Lincoln Park Zoo. As they wandered between exhibits, he marveled at how naturally they had become a unit. Lily racing ahead to each new animal, Olivia following at a more measured pace, thoughtful and observant. The change in Olivia over the past 2 months was remarkable. She had gained weight, her cheeks filling out and her eyes brightening. The shadows beneath them, evidence of nights spent sleepless and afraid on the streets, had faded. She smiled more easily now, laughed more freely, though she still maintained a certain watchfulness as if part of her remained braced for this happiness to be snatched away. They were watching the sea lions when Lily tugged on Jack's sleeve. "Dad, I'm hungry. Can we get hot dogs?" "Sure," Jack agreed. "The cafe is just around the corner." As they waited in line at the outdoor concession stand, Jack felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find a woman in her 30s with warm brown eyes and curly hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore a Chicago General Hospital ID badge over a light jacket. "Excuse me," she said, "but aren't you Olivia Rivera's guardian? I'm Kate Mitchell. I was her nurse at the free clinic last year." Recognition dawned on Olivia's face. "Nurse Kate," she exclaimed with unusual animation. "You gave me the superhero bandages." Kate smiled, clearly pleased to be remembered. "That's right. You had that nasty cut on your arm. You were so brave, didn't cry once while I cleaned it." Jack extended his hand. "Jack Anderson. It's nice to meet you, Kate." "You too. I've wondered about Olivia since she stopped coming to the clinic." Kate's gaze shifted to Olivia, her expression softening. "You look so much better, sweetheart. Healthier." "I have my own room now," Olivia told her proudly. "And I go to school with Lily. She's my sister." "Almost sister," Lily corrected, ever precise. "Dad's trying to adopt Olivia, but there's a lot of paperwork." "That's wonderful," Kate said, her smile including all three of them. "The system needs more people willing to open their homes and hearts." Something in her tone made Jack curious. "Do you work with many cases like Olivia's at the clinic?" "Too many," Kate admitted. "Children who fall through the cracks for one reason or another. I'm actually a pediatric nurse at Chicago General, but I volunteer at the free clinic on weekends." Their conversation was interrupted as they reached the front of the line. Jack ordered food for the family, then impulsively added, "Can we buy you lunch, Kate, as a thank you for taking care of Olivia?" Kate hesitated, then nodded. "That's very kind, thank you." They found a table overlooking the sea lion pool, and as they ate, Kate shared stories of her work at both the hospital and the clinic. She spoke with genuine passion about helping children, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds. Olivia, usually reserved with strangers, seemed completely at ease with Kate, even showing her the sketchbook she had brought along. "These are amazing," Kate said, carefully turning the pages of Olivia's latest drawings. "You've always had talent, but these are on another level." "Jack got me real art supplies," Olivia explained, "and books about different techniques. I'm learning perspective now." "Jack?" Kate repeated with a smile, glancing up at him. "Not Mr. Anderson anymore?" "We're working on it," Jack admitted. "Some days I'm Jack, some days I'm Mr. Anderson. It's a process." "All families are," Kate said with understanding, "even the conventional ones." As the girls finished their food and asked to visit the nearby gift shop, Jack found himself reluctant to end the conversation with Kate. There was something refreshingly straightforward about her, a warmth and competence that put him at ease. "Would you like to join us for the rest of our zoo visit?" he found himself asking. "Unless you have other plans, of course." Kate checked her watch. "Actually, I have a few hours before my shift at the clinic. I'd love to tag along, if the girls don't mind." "They'll be thrilled," Jack assured her, "especially Olivia. She clearly remembers you fondly." Indeed, when they shared the plan with the girls, Olivia's face lit up with a smile more uninhibited than any Jack had seen from her. As they continued through the zoo, he observed the easy rapport between Kate and both girls. She knelt to their level when explaining interesting facts about the animals, listened attentively to their questions, and matched Lily's boundless energy with good humor. By the time they reached the Butterfly Haven, their final stop, Jack found himself sharing more than he had intended about the challenges of the adoption process, the tension with Robert at work, and his concerns about the impact of neighborhood gossip on the girls. "It sounds like you're handling it all remarkably well," Kate said as they watched the girls move through the humid greenhouse, delighting as butterflies landed on their outstretched hands. "But it can't be easy doing it alone. I have my sister, Rebecca," Jack said. "She's been invaluable with the legal side of things, and Mrs. Chen, our housekeeper, is wonderful with the girls." "But that's not the same as having a partner," Kate observed, then immediately looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry. That was presumptuous of me." "No, you're right," Jack admitted. "Since Claire, my wife, passed away, I've focused entirely on Lily and work. There hasn't been room for anything else, or anyone else." Kate nodded understandingly. "Grief has its own timeline. You can't rush it." "It's been 3 years," Jack said quietly. "I'll always love Claire, but lately I've started to feel, I don't know, ready to at least consider the possibility of moving forward." The conversation might have continued in that revealing vein if Lily hadn't bounded up at that moment, excitedly describing the blue morpho butterfly that had landed on her shoulder. The moment passed, but as they walked toward the exit, Jack found himself wondering if he had imagined the spark of connection between them. At the zoo entrance, Kate checked her watch again. "I should head to the clinic. Thank you for letting me crash your family outing." "It was our pleasure," Jack assured her. "Maybe we could do it again sometime." Kate smiled, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. I'd like that. After exchanging phone numbers, they said their goodbyes. As Kate walked away, Olivia tugged on Jack's hand. I like Nurse Kate, she said seriously. She's nice. She is, Jack agreed, watching Kate's retreating figure with a warmth he hadn't felt in years. The following week brought a flurry of activity. Jack's design for the Thompson Tower received preliminary approval, temporarily placating Robert. At home, Olivia's social worker scheduled a follow-up visit to assess the family's progress, and Kate texted to invite them to a children's art exhibition at the Chicago Cultural Center, where one of her young patients was being featured. I thought Olivia might find it inspiring, she wrote. No pressure if you're busy. They weren't busy. In fact, Jack found himself looking forward to the exhibition with an anticipation that surprised him. When Saturday arrived, he spent more time than usual deciding what to wear, finally settling on a casual blue button-down that Claire had always said brought out his eyes. The exhibition was housed in a light-filled gallery at the Cultural Center. Kate was waiting for them at the entrance, looking different, but no less appealing in a simple dress rather than her work clothes. I'm so glad you could make it, she said, greeting each of them warmly. Olivia, I think you're going to love this. All the artists are between 8 and 15 years old. She was right. Olivia moved through the gallery with wide-eyed wonder, studying each piece intently, occasionally pulling out her sketchbook to jot down notes or make quick sketches of techniques that impressed her. Lily, less interested in art, but always supportive of her sister, pointed out pieces she thought Olivia would especially like. Jack and Kate followed behind, their conversation flowing naturally from topic to topic, their respective work, favorite places in Chicago, books they'd enjoyed recently. Jack couldn't remember the last time he'd spoken to someone so easily, without the weight of business concerns or parental responsibilities dominating the discussion. You know, Kate said as they paused before a particularly striking painting by a 13-year-old, you should consider entering some of Olivia's work in next year's exhibition. The submissions open in the fall. Do you really think she's good enough? Jack asked, though he already knew the answer. Absolutely, Kate confirmed. She has a unique perspective and technical skill beyond her years. Plus, the recognition would be wonderful for her self-esteem. Jack nodded, mentally filing away the idea. Speaking of recognition, how's your young artist doing today? You mentioned he's one of your patients. Marcus, Kate said, her expression softening. He's over there, actually. She pointed to a small boy in a wheelchair, beaming as visitors admired his vibrant, abstract paintings. His parents stood nearby, pride evident in their faces. He has cystic fibrosis, Kate explained quietly. Art is his escape from the endless treatments and hospital stays. I've been his nurse since he was diagnosed at 4. That must be difficult, Jack said, watching the boy's animated gestures as he explained his work to an elderly couple. It can be, Kate acknowledged. But it's also incredibly rewarding. Marcus is one of the bravest people I know, and he's taught me more about joy and resilience than I could ever teach him. Jack found himself studying Kate's profile, struck by the genuine compassion in her voice. She caught him looking and smiled questioningly. Sorry, he said, feeling uncharacteristically flustered. I was just thinking that the girls and I are lucky to have met you. Kate's smile deepened, and she was about to respond when a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. Jack turned to see Robert Payne entering the gallery with a group of well-dressed people. Clients, judging by their demeanor and Robert's solicitous attitude. That's my business partner, Jack explained to Kate, a knot forming in his stomach. I had no idea he'd be here. Robert spotted Jack almost immediately, his surprise quickly masked by a practiced smile as he approached with his entourage. Jack! What a coincidence, Robert said, his tone just a shade too hearty. I'm giving the Westlake development team a cultural tour of Chicago. They're interested in incorporating local art into the new building. Good idea, Jack replied neutrally, aware of Kate beside him and the girls now returning to join them. Robert's gaze shifted, taking in Kate and then settling on Olivia with barely disguised calculation. And this must be the famous Olivia I've heard so much about. He extended his hand to her with exaggerated cordiality. Robert Payne, your guardian's business partner. Olivia shook his hand tentatively, her natural wariness returning in full force. Hello. And who's this? Robert asked, turning his attention to Kate. Kate Mitchell, she answered before Jack could speak. I'm a friend of the family. Ah, Robert said, something knowing in his tone that made Jack want to punch him. Well, it's lovely to meet you all. Jack, might I have a word in private? Reluctantly, Jack stepped aside with Robert, leaving Kate with the girls. Once they were out of earshot, Robert's friendly facade dropped. Bringing your charity case to public events now? He asked, his voice low. Bold move. Don't call her that, Jack warned, keeping his own voice controlled despite his rising anger. Olivia is my daughter in every way that matters. Not legally, Robert countered. Not yet. And after your performance at Thompson's dinner last week, you might want to be more careful about public appearances. Jack frowned. What are you talking about? The dinner went perfectly well. From your perspective, perhaps, but several board members expressed concern about your commitment to the project. I had to assure them personally that your domestic situation wouldn't affect the timeline. The implication was clear. Robert was actively undermining him with their most important client. Before Jack could respond, Lily bounded over, excitement overriding her usual perceptiveness about adult tensions. Dad, Olivia's talking to a real gallery owner. He loves her drawings. Is she? Jack managed to smile, his anger at Robert temporarily displaced by pride. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Better go attend to your family, Robert said, the word laden with subtle mockery. We'll discuss the Thompson situation at the office on Monday. As Robert rejoined his group, Jack returned to find Olivia deep in conversation with an older gentleman who was examining her sketchbook with genuine interest. Kate stood nearby, watching with evident satisfaction. I may have mentioned to Mr. Goldstein that Olivia is an incredible young artist, she admitted when Jack joined her. He's one of the most respected gallery owners in Chicago. Thank you, Jack said, touched by her thoughtfulness. That was incredibly kind. It wasn't kindness, it was honesty. She's truly talented. Kate hesitated, then added, Is everything okay? Your partner seemed intense. Jack sighed. Robert is complicated. He's brilliant at what he does, but he's not thrilled about my changed priorities since Olivia came into our lives. That's his loss, Kate said firmly. What you're doing for Olivia is beautiful. Anyone who can't see that is missing the bigger picture. Her unwavering support warmed him, creating a stark contrast to Robert's thinly veiled hostility. As they watched Olivia animatedly describing her artistic process to Mr. Goldstein, Jack felt a surge of certainty. Whatever challenges Robert might create at work, whatever obstacles remained in the adoption process, this, his daughters, this unexpected connection with Kate, was what truly mattered. What Jack couldn't know was that his conversation with Robert was being carefully observed by Mrs. Bennett, who had accompanied her husband, a potential investor in the Westlake development. Nor could he have anticipated how quickly she would spread her poisonous interpretation of Jack's relationship with Kate to the already suspicious Mrs. Patterson, setting in motion a chain of events that would threaten everything Jack was working to build. April in Chicago brought unpredictable weather and, for the Anderson household, a whirlwind of activity. Kate had become a regular presence in their lives, joining them for weekend outings, helping Olivia develop her artistic skills, and even attending Lily's spring piano recital. The girls adored her, and Jack found himself increasingly drawn to her warmth, intelligence, and the easy way she fit into their evolving family dynamic. One evening, after Kate had joined them for dinner and the girls had gone upstairs to get ready for bed, Jack and Kate sat on the back porch, enjoying the mild spring air. I got a call from Ms. Daniels today, Jack said, referring to Olivia's social worker. The adoption hearing has been scheduled for next month. Kate's face lit up. Jack, that's wonderful news. Have you told Olivia yet? Not yet. I want to be certain everything is in order first. There have been so many delays and complications already. Bureaucracy at its finest, Kate agreed. But from everything you've told me, it sounds like you've cleared all the major hurdles. Ms. Daniels is firmly in your corner, right? She is, Jack confirmed, and having Rebecca as our attorney has smoothed the process considerably. Still, I can't help worrying. Olivia has been let down by adults so many times before. Kate reached over and covered his hand with hers. But not by you. You've kept every promise you've made to her. She knows that. The simple touch of her hand sent warmth spreading up Jack's arm. They had been moving cautiously towards something more than friendship over the past weeks, neither of them rushing, both aware of the complexities involved, His status as a widower still healing from loss, her demanding career, the needs of the girls, the unfinished adoption process. I hope so, Jack said, allowing his fingers to intertwine with hers. I want both girls to feel secure, to know that our family, whatever shape it takes, is permanent. Kate's gaze met his, understanding the unspoken question in his words. I think they already do, she said softly. And for what it's worth, I think you're an amazing father, Jack. To both of them. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Jack leaned forward slightly, and Kate did the same, their lips meeting in a gentle, tentative kiss that nevertheless felt like coming home. When they broke apart, Jack saw his own wonder reflected in Kate's eyes. I've wanted to do that for weeks, he admitted. Kate smiled. What took you so long? Their second kiss was interrupted by a delighted squeal from the doorway. They turned to find Lily watching them, her hands clasped dramatically over her heart. I knew it, she exclaimed. Olivia, Dad and Kate are kissing, Jack groaned, equal parts embarrassed and amused. Lily, weren't you supposed to be getting ready for bed? I came down for water, Lily said innocently, though her smirk suggested the errand might have been a convenient excuse. Wait till I tell Olivia. She's been hoping you two would fall in love. Has she now? Kate asked, a blush coloring her cheeks. She says you make our family feel complete, Lily continued, apparently unconcerned about her father's growing embarrassment. And I agree, you're way better than Dad's old girlfriends. Lily, Jack cut in firmly. That's enough commentary for tonight. Back upstairs, please. With a triumphant grin, Lily skipped back inside, leaving Jack and Kate in a moment of awkward silence that quickly dissolved into laughter. I'm sorry about that, Jack said. Subtlety isn't Lily's strong suit. It's fine, Kate assured him. I'm flattered to have the Anderson sisters' approval, though I'm curious about these old girlfriends now. There haven't been many, Jack admitted. A few dinner dates Rebecca insisted I go on, nothing serious since Claire. Until now, Kate asked, her voice soft but direct. Jack met her gaze, feeling a certainty he hadn't experienced in years. Until now. The following Monday, Jack arrived at the office early, determined to get ahead on the Thompson Tower revisions before his afternoon meetings. He was surprised to find Robert already there, looking unusually grim. We need to talk, Robert said without preamble. Privately. Jack followed him into the conference room, an uneasy feeling settling in his stomach. Robert closed the door and turned to face him. I had an interesting conversation with Westlake's CFO yesterday, Robert began. Apparently, Mrs. Bennett has been sharing some concerning stories about your personal life. Jack sighed. What now? More gossip about Olivia? Partly, Robert acknowledged. But now there's a new angle, your relationship with the nurse. Kate, Jack corrected automatically. Her name is Kate. Whatever her name is, it's creating complications. The Bennetts are traditional people, Jack. They don't appreciate the domestic arrangement you seem to be creating. Jack stared at his partner in disbelief. My domestic arrangement? You mean dating a kind, intelligent woman while legally adopting a child who needed a home? What exactly is objectionable about that? It's not what I think that matters, Robert said, spreading his hands. It's what the clients think. And right now, they're questioning whether you're the right person to lead their $50 million project. Because I'm dating someone while the adoption is still pending, Jack clarified, incredulous. Because you're creating a perception problem, Robert countered. First, the sudden adoption of the cleaning lady's granddaughter. Now this relationship with a woman you've known for what? 2 months? It raises questions about your judgment, your stability. Jack felt anger rising like a tide. My personal life has no bearing on my professional capabilities. You know that, Robert. Maybe I do, Robert conceded. But perception matters in this business. We're not just designing buildings, we're selling trust. And right now your personal choices are complicating that narrative. What exactly are you suggesting? Jack asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Robert leaned forward, his expression a careful mask of concern. Take a step back from Thompson. Let me handle the client-facing work while you focus on design, just until things settle down. The proposal was so transparently self-serving that Jack almost laughed. Robert had been trying to edge him out of client relationships for months, positioning himself as the face of the firm while relegating Jack to a behind-the-scenes role. This was just his latest attempt, disguised as concern. "No," Jack said simply. "I won't step back from Thompson or any other project because of unfounded gossip. If the clients have concerns about my work, they can address them to me directly." Robert's facade of friendly concern slipped, revealing a flash of frustration. "You're being stubborn, Jack. This isn't just about Thompson anymore. Several board members have expressed concerns about the direction of the firm under your distracted leadership." "Meaning what, exactly?" Jack challenged. "Meaning there's talk of restructuring," Robert said bluntly, "redistributing ownership shares to reflect current levels of commitment." The implication was clear. Robert was making a play for control of the firm they had built together. Jack felt a cold fury settle over him, clarifying his thoughts with crystalline precision. "Our partnership agreement requires unanimous board approval for any restructuring," Jack reminded him, "and I control 4 of the 9 seats." "For now," Robert acknowledged. "But sentiment can change, Jack, especially when financial interests are at stake." Jack stood, straightening his jacket with deliberate calm. "This conversation is over, Robert. I suggest you focus on your actual responsibilities instead of undermining mine. I'll see you at the Thompson meeting this afternoon." He left the conference room without waiting for a response, anger propelling him down the hallway to his office. Once inside, he closed the door and took several deep breaths, trying to process the implicit threat in Robert's words. His phone buzzed with a text from Kate. "Good morning. Hope your day is off to a better start than mine. 3 patients with stomach flu already, and it's not even 9 a.m. Still on for dinner Thursday?" The simple message centered him, reminding him of what truly mattered. He quickly replied in the affirmative, then opened his laptop to prepare for the Thompson meeting. Robert might be plotting behind the scenes, but Jack wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing him rattled. That evening, Jack arrived home to find the girls and Mrs. Chen gathered around the kitchen island, working on what appeared to be a massive art project. "What's all this?" he asked, setting down his briefcase. "We're making a family tree," Lily announced proudly, "for Olivia's social studies project." Jack approached to examine their work, a large poster board covered with photographs, drawings, and handwritten notes. At the top, in Olivia's careful script, was the title, "The Family We Choose." Unlike a traditional family tree with branches extending backward through generations, this one grew outward from a central point, a photograph of Jack, Lily, and Olivia taken at the zoo. From there, lines connected to photos of Rebecca and her family, Mrs. Chen, and Jack noticed with a tightening in his throat. "Kate, is this okay?" Olivia asked hesitantly, noticing his focus on Kate's picture. "I know she's not officially family, but it's perfect," Jack assured her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Family isn't just about blood relations. It's about the people who show up, who care, who make our lives better." Olivia's smile was worth every difficulty Robert had thrown his way that day. "That's what I told Ms. Campbell. She said family trees are supposed to show biological relatives, but I said this is more honest." "And what did she say to that?" Jack asked, amused by Olivia's growing confidence. "She said I could do it my way, as long as I could explain my reasoning in my presentation." Olivia pointed to a neatly written paragraph at the bottom of the poster. "So I wrote about how families come in all different forms, and sometimes the strongest branches are the ones we graft on ourselves." Jack read the paragraph, impressed by both the maturity of the sentiment and the quality of the writing. "This is excellent, Olivia. Really thoughtful." "Kate helped me with the conclusion when she called earlier," Olivia admitted. "She's really good at explaining things." "Yes, she is," Jack agreed, warmth spreading through him at this further evidence of how seamlessly Kate had integrated into their lives. The following days brought a flurry of activity. At work, Jack successfully presented the revised Thompson designs, earning praise from the clients despite Robert's attempts to highlight minor issues. At home, preparation for Olivia's adoption hearing intensified, with Rebecca coming over to help Jack organize the final documentation. "Everything looks in order," Rebecca assured him as they sat at his dining room table, surrounded by paperwork. "Ms. Daniels' reports are glowing, the home study is approved, and all financial disclosures are complete. Barring any unforeseen complications, the hearing should be straightforward." "What kind of complications?" Jack asked, his perpetual worry surfacing despite his sister's reassurances. Rebecca hesitated. "Well, there's one thing we should discuss. I've heard rumors that Robert might attempt to intervene. Jack stared at her in disbelief. Intervene how? He has no standing in this case. Not legally, no, Rebecca acknowledged. But he's been speaking to some influential people, suggesting that your recent personal choices, particularly your relationship with Kate, indicate instability that might not be in Olivia's best interests. That's absurd, Jack protested. Kate is wonderful with both girls. They adore her. I know that, Rebecca said soothingly, and any judge who spends 5 minutes with all of you will see it too. I'm just warning you that Robert might try to create complications. The question is why? What does he gain from sabotaging your adoption of Olivia? Jack leaned back in his chair, considering. Control of the firm, potentially. He's been pushing for restructuring, claiming my personal distractions are affecting my professional judgment. If the adoption were denied, it would support his narrative. Rebecca's expression darkened. That's despicable, even for Robert. Using a child's future as leverage in a business dispute. He doesn't see it that way, Jack said wearily. In his mind, he's protecting the firm's reputation from my questionable decisions. He's always been more concerned with appearances than substance. Well, he's about to learn that family court judges care about substance, Rebecca said firmly. Specifically, what's best for Olivia. And anyone with eyes can see that's being with you and Lily. Jack hoped his sister was right, but as he lay awake that night, Robert's veiled threats echoed in his mind. The adoption hearing was scheduled for May 15th, just 2 weeks away. So much could go wrong in 2 weeks, especially with Robert actively working against him. His phone buzzed with a late-night text from Kate. Just finished my shift. Thinking of you and the girls. Can't wait for the hearing. It's going to be perfect, Jack. Try not to worry too much. Her unwavering support eased his anxiety somewhat. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he wouldn't face them alone. He had Kate, Rebecca, the girls, the family they were building together, unexpected and imperfect, but somehow exactly right. What Jack couldn't know was that at that very moment, Robert was meeting with a private investigator, handing over a substantial check and a list of instructions. Find anything you can on Catherine Mitchell, he was saying. Personal history, professional record, financial status. I need leverage and I need it quickly. The investigator, a former police officer with questionable ethics, nodded as he pocketed the check. 2 weeks is tight, but I'll see what I can dig up. Everyone has secrets, Mr. Payne. It's just a matter of knowing where to look. As Robert left the dimly lit bar where they'd met, his phone rang. Mrs. Bennet, eager to share the latest gossip she'd gleaned from her social circle about Jack Anderson's unconventional household. Robert smiled as he answered, already calculating how to use this new information to his advantage. The clock was ticking toward the adoption hearing, and Robert was determined to ensure the outcome served his interests, regardless of what was best for Olivia. It was, he told himself, simply business. Nothing personal about it at all. The morning of May 15th dawned clear and bright, a perfect spring day in Chicago. Jack woke early, too nervous to sleep despite having prepared meticulously for the adoption hearing. He found Olivia already awake, sitting on the window seat in her bedroom, sketchbook in hand. "Morning," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. "You're up early." Olivia looked up, her expression a mixture of hope and anxiety. "Couldn't sleep." Jack sat beside her, glancing at the drawing taking shape under her careful hand, a detailed rendering of their family, including Kate, standing together outside a courthouse. "That's beautiful," he said. "And prophetic, I hope." "Do you think it will really happen today?" Olivia asked, her voice small. "Will I really be an Anderson?" "That's the plan," Jack assured her. "Rebecca says everything is in order. The judge will ask you some questions, and me too, but it's mostly a formality at this point." Olivia nodded, returning to her drawing with careful concentration. "I picked out my best dress," she said after a moment. "The blue one Kate helped me find." "Perfect choice," Jack agreed. "Very official looking." By 9 o'clock, the household was in full morning rush. Lily bounced around with excitement, repeatedly asking when they needed to leave for the courthouse. Mrs. Chen arrived early to help with breakfast and to wish them luck. Rebecca called to confirm she'd meet them directly at the courthouse, bringing the final paperwork with her. Kate arrived just as they were preparing to leave, looking professional but approachable in a simple dress and cardigan. "I thought you might want some moral support," she explained, hugging both girls. Plus, I switched shifts to make sure I could be there. I'm glad you did, Jack said, kissing her cheek. We all are. The ride to the courthouse was filled with Lily's chatter, which Jack suspected was her way of masking her own nervousness about the proceedings. Olivia remained quiet, clutching her sketchbook like a talisman. The family court was less imposing than Jack had feared, more administrative office than judicial chamber. Rebecca was waiting for them in the hallway, looking confident in her attorney attire. Everything's set, she assured Jack, handing him a slim folder. Judge Martinez is fair and child-focused. Just be honest and straightforward, and let Olivia express herself freely. The social worker's reports are excellent, so this should be smooth sailing. Jack nodded, grateful for his sister's calm efficiency. They settled onto benches in the waiting area, Kate sitting between the girls while Jack reviewed the documents one last time with Rebecca. Jack Anderson. He looked up to see Ms. Daniels approaching, her expression unreadable. Could I speak with you privately for a moment? Jack's stomach dropped. Private conversations with social workers immediately before hearings couldn't be good news. Of course, he said, standing to follow her to a quiet corner. I've just received some concerning information, Ms. Daniels began without preamble. A file was delivered to my office this morning containing allegations about Ms. Mitchell's professional conduct. Jack frowned. Kate, what kind of allegations? Claims that she administered medication improperly to a patient last year, resulting in a formal reprimand from Chicago General. Ms. Daniels watched Jack's reaction carefully. I have to ask if you were aware of this. No, Jack said honestly, because I'm certain it isn't true. Kate is one of the most dedicated, careful nurses I've ever met. Who submitted these allegations? The file was anonymous, Ms. Daniels replied. But given its timing, I'm concerned it might be an attempt to influence today's proceedings. Jack's mind immediately went to Robert. This had his partner's fingerprints all over it, a last-minute attempt to create doubt about Jack's judgment by questioning Kate's character. It's a fabrication, Jack said firmly. Kate has an impeccable professional record. This is a deliberate attempt to disrupt the adoption by someone with a personal agenda against me. Ms. Daniels nodded slowly. I suspected as much, which is why I called Chicago General directly. They confirmed Ms. Mitchell has never received any reprimand and is, in fact, considered one of their exemplary nurses. Relief washed over Jack. Thank you for checking. I appreciate your thoroughness. Mr. Anderson, in my years as a social worker, I've learned to recognize when someone is trying to manipulate the system, Miss Daniels said, her voice hardening slightly. Whoever sent that file wasn't interested in Olivia's welfare. They were trying to use her as a pawn in some other game. My business partner, Jack admitted, he's been unhappy with my priorities lately. Well, his tactics have backfired, Ms. Daniels assured him. Judge Martinez doesn't appreciate attempts to manipulate her court. I've already informed her about the false allegations. They returned to the waiting area, where Kate immediately noticed Jack's tension. Everything okay? She asked quietly. Before he could answer, the courtroom doors opened and a clerk called their case. As they filed in, Jack whispered a brief explanation to Kate, whose expression shifted from shock to controlled anger. We'll deal with it later, she murmured. Let's focus on Olivia now. Judge Martinez was a stern-looking woman in her 60s with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed the file before her while everyone settled into place, Jack and Olivia at the petitioner's table with Rebecca, Kate and Lily in the seats directly behind them, Ms. Daniels to one side. Before we begin, Judge Martinez said, looking up, I want to address the irregular communication my court received this morning regarding Ms. Catherine Mitchell. Having reviewed the allegations and confirmed their falsity, I am disregarding that information entirely. Whoever submitted it should be aware that attempting to manipulate family court proceedings with false information is a serious offense. Jack felt a surge of satisfaction, imagining Robert's reaction when he learned his scheme had failed. The judge turned her attention to Olivia, her expression softening. Olivia Rivera, would you please stand? Olivia rose on slightly trembling legs, her hands clasped tightly before her. I've read all about you in these reports, Judge Martinez continued, her tone gentler now. About your grandmother, your time on the streets, and how you came to live with Mr. Anderson and his daughter. But I'd like to hear from you directly. Do you want Mr. Anderson to adopt you? Olivia nodded, then remembered to speak aloud. Yes, Your Honor. Can you tell me why? Olivia took a deep breath. Because he saved me when no one else would. He gave me a home and a family when I thought I'd never have one again. He helps me with homework and buys me art supplies and makes sure I eat vegetables even though I don't like them. This last comment elicited a smile from the judge, but mostly because he promised he wouldn't let anyone take me away, and he's never broken a promise to me, not once. The simple sincerity of her words brought tears to Jack's eyes. Judge Martinez nodded thoughtfully. Thank you, Olivia. That was very well said. She turned to Jack. Mr. Anderson, raising a child is an enormous responsibility, as you already know from your daughter Lily. Taking in a second child, especially one who has experienced trauma, requires exceptional commitment. Are you prepared for the challenges ahead? I am, Your Honor, Jack replied firmly. Olivia has already brought so much joy and meaning to our lives. Any challenges we face, we'll face as a family. The judge asked several more questions about practical matters, schooling, financial provisions, support systems, all of which Jack answered confidently. Finally, she sat back, surveying the group before her. In my years on the family court bench, I've seen many different types of families, she said. Some bound by blood, others by choice. What matters isn't the structure, but the love, stability, and support provided to the child. She smiled at Olivia. Based on the evidence before me, including Ms. Daniels' excellent reports and my own observations today, I find that this adoption serves the best interests of Olivia Rivera. She signed the document before her with a flourish. Effective immediately, Olivia Rivera is legally Olivia Anderson, with all the rights and privileges thereof. Congratulations to you all. The formality of the courtroom dissolved as Lily let out a whoop of joy and rushed forward to hug her sister, officially her sister now. Kate and Rebecca joined them, creating a circle of celebration around Olivia, who looked stunned by the sudden reality of what had just happened. We did it, Jack said, kneeling to meet Olivia's gaze. You're an Anderson now, officially and forever. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. Really, forever? No takebacks? No takebacks, Jack confirmed, his own voice thick with emotion. You're stuck with us now. Olivia threw her arms around his neck, hugging him with a fierce intensity that communicated everything words couldn't. Over her shoulder, Jack met Kate's gaze, seeing his own joy mirrored in her eyes. Outside the courthouse, Rebecca insisted on taking photos to commemorate the occasion. Jack with both daughters, all four of them together, various combinations capturing the expansion of their family unit. As Rebecca was directing yet another pose, Jack noticed a familiar figure watching from the courthouse steps. Robert. Give me a minute, Jack told the others, then walked over to confront his partner. Robert didn't bother pretending he wasn't there intentionally. I see the hearing went well, he said, his tone neutral. Congratulations. Cut the act, Robert, Jack replied coldly. I know you sent those false allegations about Kate to Ms. Daniels. It didn't work. Robert had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Business is business, Jack. Nothing personal. Using a child's future as leverage is about as personal as it gets, Jack countered. And trying to smear a dedicated healthcare professional's reputation, that crosses every line. Perhaps I went too far, Robert conceded, surprising Jack with the admission. But my concerns about your commitment to the firm are legitimate. We built Anderson and Payne together. I don't want to see it become a secondary priority because you're playing happy families. Jack studied his partner, seeing beyond the ruthless tactics to the fear beneath. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You're afraid I won't care about the firm as much now that I have more in my life than work. Will you? Robert challenged. I'll care differently, Jack acknowledged. More efficiently, with better boundaries. But that doesn't mean I care less about what we've built. It means I finally understand that success isn't measured solely by contracts and billable hours. Robert looked skeptical. That's a convenient philosophy when you're pulling back. I'm not pulling back, I'm finding balance, Jack corrected him. Something you might want to consider before you alienate everyone who matters. He paused, then added more gently, There's room for both, Robert. The work and the life it's supposed to support. I had to nearly lose everything to figure that out. Before Robert could respond, Lily called out from where the family waited. Dad, come on. We're going to be late for the reservation. Think about what I said, Jack told Robert. And on Monday, we need to have a serious conversation about the future of the firm, one that doesn't involve underhanded tactics or false allegations. He rejoined his family, pushing thoughts of Robert and work aside. Today wasn't about business conflicts. It was about celebrating Olivia's official entry into the Anderson family. The celebration lunch was at Olivia's favorite Italian restaurant, where the owner, having heard about the occasion, presented her with a special dessert emblazoned with "Welcome to the family" in chocolate sauce. Afterward, they returned home to find Mrs. Chen had transformed the living room with streamers and balloons, and a hand-painted banner reading, "Congratulations, Olivia Anderson." "One more surprise," Jack announced, as the girls admired Mrs. Chen's decorations. "Rebecca, would you do the honors?" Rebecca produced an envelope from her briefcase and handed it to Olivia. "This is from all of us." Olivia opened it carefully to find documents for a college savings account established in her name, with an initial deposit substantial enough to ensure her education would be fully funded. "Your grandmother always said she was saving for your college," Jack explained gently. "Now you don't have to worry about that anymore. Whatever you want to study, wherever you want to go, it's covered." Olivia stared at the documents, speechless for a moment. "I don't know what to say," she finally managed, her voice barely audible. "You don't have to say anything," Kate assured her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Just keep being your amazing self." The afternoon flowed into evening, with friends dropping by to congratulate the newly expanded Anderson family. Principal Harris from the school brought flowers. Ms. Winters came with a gift basket of art supplies. Even Mrs. Chen's husband, who usually kept his distance, appeared with a traditional Chinese good luck charm for Olivia. As the house gradually quieted, Jack found himself on the back porch with Kate, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, reminiscent of Olivia's artwork. "What a day," Kate said, leaning against him. "How does it feel to be officially a father of two?" "Terrifying, exhilarating, right?" Jack smiled down at her. "Thank you for being part of it, all of it. Not just today, but everything leading up to it. I'm not sure we would have made it this far without you." "Yes, you would have," Kate contradicted him gently. "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, Jack Anderson. But I'm glad I could be here for it." Jack took her hand, suddenly certain of what he wanted to say next. "I hope you'll be here for whatever comes next, too. The girls adore you. And I—" He paused, finding the words that had been forming in his heart for weeks. "I love you, Kate. I didn't expect to find you, especially not now, but somehow you fit perfectly into this unexpected life we're building." Kate's eyes shimmered with emotion. "I love you too. And those girls, both of them. I know it's fast and complicated, and probably breaks all the conventional dating rules." Jack silenced her with a kiss, gentle but filled with promise. "Conventional is overrated," he murmured against her lips. "We're writing our own rules now." Inside, the girls were supposed to be getting ready for bed, but instead they watched the scene on the porch from Lily's bedroom window. "Told you they were in love," Lily whispered triumphantly. "Do you think they'll get married?" Olivia considered this, her head tilted thoughtfully. "Eventually. Kate's smart. She won't rush him. But she loves us, and he loves her. It's just a matter of time. Then she'll really be part of our family," Lily said happily. "Just like on your family tree poster." "She already is," Olivia replied with the wisdom of a child who understood that families were created by love, not paperwork. "The adoption just makes it official, like Dad said. The real family was already there." Later that night, with both girls finally asleep after the excitement of the day, Jack sat in his home office, a glass of celebratory whiskey in hand. He opened his laptop to find an email from Robert, sent just an hour earlier. "Jack," it read, "I've been doing some thinking about our conversation today. Perhaps there's some merit to your perspective on balance. I'm open to discussing a restructuring that accommodates both of our priorities moving forward. And I owe you, and Ms. Mitchell, an apology for my tactics. They were inexcusable. Regardless of my concerns, congratulations again on the adoption. Robert." It wasn't a complete surrender, but it was a start. Jack typed a brief acknowledgement, suggesting they meet for lunch Monday rather than in the office. Neutral territory for what promised to be a complex negotiation. As he closed his laptop, Jack found himself thinking about the journey that had brought them to this point. 4 months ago, he had been a widower focused solely on work, with a daughter he loved but often neglected for professional obligations. Olivia had been a homeless child, surviving on the streets, her artistic talent and resilient spirit hidden beneath the daily struggle for survival. Kate had been a dedicated nurse, pouring herself into her patient's care while her own personal life remained on hold. Now, through a chance encounter and a series of choices, some easy, some agonizingly difficult, they had created something new together. Not a replacement for what any of them had lost, but a fresh configuration of love, support, and belonging that honored the past while embracing the future. Jack moved through the quiet house, checking on each sleeping daughter. Lily sprawled across her bed as always, limbs flung wide, her face peaceful in sleep. Olivia lay curled on her side, one hand tucked beneath her cheek, the other resting on the sketchbook she kept beside her bed. On the nightstand, the photograph of Eleanor Rivera seemed to watch over her granddaughter, a connection to the past preserved within this new beginning. In Olivia's room, Jack noticed a new drawing pinned to her art wall, the courthouse scene she had sketched that morning, now completed with careful detail. In the foreground stood their family, Jack, Lily, Olivia, and Kate, hands linked in an unbroken circle. Behind them, barely visible but unmistakably present, was a transparent figure Jack recognized as Claire, her smile benevolent as she watched over them all. The image brought tears to his eyes, not of grief this time, but of profound gratitude. Somehow this perceptive child had captured the truth of their journey, that love wasn't diminished by sharing it more widely, that new beginnings didn't erase cherished memories, that family could expand in unexpected directions without losing its essential core. "Thank you," he whispered to the sleeping child, to both his daughters, to Kate, to the forces of chance and choice that had brought them together. For a man who had once measured success in square footage and client contracts, Jack Anderson had discovered a different metric altogether: the capacity of the human heart to heal, to hope, and to create family from the most unlikely circumstances. Outside, Chicago continued its nighttime rhythm, millions of lives intersecting in countless ways. In one Lincoln Park townhouse, a newly completed family slept peacefully, their individual stories now woven into a shared narrative, one that had begun with a hungry child looking through a restaurant window and a simple act of compassion that had changed everything.